one with yeah? Which is the one where where Anderson Cooper can't believe it? He has that look of surprise on his
It's
face.
about the racism one.
Oh, the racism. Okay, yeah, here it is. Now, here is a clip of AOC on 60 Minutes. We can't, CBS, for whatever reason, doesn't believe in fair use, and so they have an issue with us using video, but the audio is good enough. It'll cause you to listen to it. But we did want to put the picture of Anderson Cooper looking very surprised by what AOC is saying. Like, this
Looks like
is
a perturbed dog.
This is part and parcel of the same thing of Jim Scutio saying, like, isn't it possible that you'll be portrayed as obstructionist? Like, did someone kidnap everyone in the media and then bring them up? Like, is it like one of those things like Men in Black situation where they all get, they cannot aggregate any information or context or know anything outside of that very moment? Like, are they reborn at every single moment? Someone in the Democratic Party or someone to the left of them, or even not to the left, just someone nominally on the left says something. It's as if they're like approaching it with virgin ears. Like, I know nothing about the world or anything. I'm just shocked to hear this. Are you saying there's something? Are you saying that the Republicans are in some way motivated by race? Really? Here's AOC talking to Anderson Cooper.
You don't talk about President Trump very much.
No.
Why?
No. Because I think he's a symptom of a problem.
What do you mean?
The president certainly didn't invent racism, but he's certainly given a voice to it and expanded it and created a platform for those things.
Do you believe President Trump is a racist?
Yeah, no question.
How can you say that?
When you look at the words that he uses, which are historic dog whistles of white supremacy, when you look at how he reacted to the Charlottesville incident where neo-Nazis murdered a woman versus how he manufactures crises like immigrants seeking legal refuge on our borders, it's night and day.
I like how she could just say, like, by every observable action, both stated and like, what, like, I mean, it really is like a where do you begin answer,
right?
Like, we could go to the stuff you guys talk about all the time, his Twitter feed, or we could go to policy like temporary protected status for Haitians. We go to the children that have died under his policies because of the motivation of racism. Where would you like to start? And maybe you could wipe the confused, credulous, idiot look off of your face while I establish reality.
Right. I mean, there's varying degrees. I think she showed the proper restraint and walked him through it like one would not a totally, like, not a toddler, but one would maybe a junior high student. But she could have also just said, I don't know, is there gravity? Like, I mean, yes.
How can you say that?
Yeah, I
mean, for what it's worth, I get the concept. I know some people. I know there's like very literalist people.
Well, what do you think happened? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying. I understand some people are like, hey, it's not Anderson Cooper. Like, he's supposed to pretend to be objective, and he can't editorial. And it's like, okay, I'm not saying that Anderson Cooper. I don't think we're saying like Anderson Cooper should be like, yeah, we all know he's a racist piece of garbage. But like, really, that level of just incredulity, like. Not even like, well, I understand why a lot of people hold that view, but do you really feel as a congresswoman? There's
so many ways to frame this.
What's your perspective on why that's the case?
Yes, literally.
As opposed to everyone else's perspective, as opposed to the white nationalists who say that Donald Trump is giving us a voice.
As opposed to, how can you say that?
Right. What? Really?
I mean, that was like as if she was like, I mean, like she might as well have been talking about Jeb Bush the way you said it.
Right. Yeah.
How can you say that?
Right. Like, what is the voice of incredulity that you use for other people? Like, what's left? It's really stunning.
How can you say that?
And here is AOC explaining to Anderson Cooper that the knee-jerk, and just as, when we were talking to Julian Zelizer earlier, this idea that the conservative movement, the Republican Party, is for limited government. No, they have different priorities. That's all. These are two parties with different priorities as to how you spend money and who should pay for it. The Republicans feel the wealthy should pay less. The Democrats largely feel the wealthy should pay more. Republicans want to spend the money on stuff that specifically enriches them. Democrats largely, at least theoretically, want to spend it on helping those people who fall through the cracks and provide a social safety net. And there are also elements of the Democratic Party, hopefully growing, and I think who want to expand universal programs and services by government. This is pretty all straightforward stuff that I would hope that after the 25 years on CNN that Anderson Cooper has picked up. But there is like some notion of like, remember, doing an interview, got to maintain a certain amount of incredulity here. Got to be just like, I'm like, I don't know where any of this is coming from.
How are you going to pay for all of this?
No one asks how we're going to pay for this Space Force. No one asked how we paid for a $2 trillion tax cut. We only ask how we pay for it on issues of housing, healthcare, and education. How do we pay for it? With the same exact mechanisms that we pay for military increases, for the Space Force, for all of these ambitious policies.
There are Democrats, obviously, who are worried about your effect on the party. Democratic Senator Chris Coons said about left-leaning Democrats, if the next 2 years is just a race to offer increasingly unrealistic proposals, it'll be difficult for us to make a credible case we should be allowed to govern again.
What makes it unrealistic?
How to pay for it.
We pay more per capita in healthcare and education for lower outcomes than many other nations. And so for me, what's unrealistic is what we're living in right now.
There you go.
Yeah,
you know what I would like to do?
Chris Coons
I would like to
is
see
much more
AOC with the
effective.
debate with Chris Coons. Chris Coons, of course, incidentally, is the one who wants to return the filibuster.
Well, Chris Coons is also just another Delaware
Yeah.
credit card subsidy senator.
He's the one up for re-election in 2020.
Yeah, I mean, Chris Coons is an utter mediocrity. The only reason he's in the Senate is because he lucked out by getting to run against Christine O'Donnell. He has nothing distinguishing to his name and has done nothing to forward any type of national cause whatsoever. She's done more in a couple of months in national life than he's done his whole career in the Senate.
To be fair, he does have that proposal to have the state legislatures pick senators again. That was... No, I'm joking. I'm joking.
I was going to say,
I actually believe that.
Yeah, I would believe it.
Like, in the nature of compromise, how about
you
vote to restore the filibuster, and in exchange, I would like to offer that the Senate selects, state legislators select.
Have decided that maybe the best way to pick senators would be to allow the board of directors at the Lincoln Center to choose them for every state.
Also, we
Anybody-
got to just keep hitting. Like, her proposal is easier on the oligarchs than Jimmy Carter's was in the late 70s. We had a 90% rate in the 50s. The economy worked great. Sweden still has a 70% rate. They're a global, actually
a lot
not
of
even
billionaires.
competitive. They're a global superstar in terms of economic performance. Like, this is just total nonsense.